Coronation Street star Jack P. Shepard has teased that there is more trouble ahead for David and Shona Platt. The couple were put through the ringer earlier this year due to complications with baby Harper, but thankfully the little one pulled through. Unfortunately, it looks like there's more trouble headed their way. David has just had a baby with Shona and they've got the baby out of hospital, and they're taking the baby home. The actor exclusively told Digital Spy, adding, "There will be something dark that happens. It won't happen to the baby. It's something family-orientated for the Platts. They've been through tough times before and they're going to go through something tough again." One of the storylines that has played out recently has seen Shona's manipulative half-sister Jody Ramsey try to break up their relationship and steal David for herself. Could this something dark be related to Jody and her lies, or something else entirely? As for Shepard, he said he feels very lucky to be able to get a good balance of dark and light storylines. David is known for doing comedy, so it's great to do something dramatic, he said. You want to be able to do both. The storylines tend to involve drama. Comedy happens in a few episodes and then peters out. But if you want an ongoing story, then you have to be able to do the drama as well. Luckily, David is involved in drama storylines and comedy. Don't forget that both Corey and Emmerdale will be airing on Sunday this week to make up for the lack of episodes airing this Friday, and next week has even more schedule chaos thanks to the football. The rain hammered against the windows of number 8 Coronation Street as David Platt sat alone in the living room, staring blankly at the television. The screen flickered with images he barely registered. His thoughts were elsewhere, trapped in a maze of worries, secrets, and fears that seemed to be closing in from every direction. Upstairs, Shona was asleep, exhausted after another tense day filled with arguments and unanswered questions. Their marriage had survived more storms than most, but lately, something felt different. The cracks weren't just showing, they were spreading. David rubbed his face and sighed deeply. For weeks, he had been carrying a burden he couldn't share. Every time he looked at Shona, guilt twisted in his stomach. He told himself he was protecting her, but the lie was becoming harder to maintain. The next morning began with forced smiles and awkward silences. You okay? Shona asked as she poured herself a coffee. Yeah, fine. David replied too quickly. She raised an eyebrow. You've said that every day this week. Maybe because it's true. Or maybe because you don't want to tell me what's really going on. David looked away. That single movement told Shona everything she needed to know. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Later that day, Shona confided in Sarah Platt at the cafe. He's shutting me out, she admitted. David always thinks he has to deal with everything himself. Sarah said. Yeah, but this feels different. Sarah hesitated. Have you asked him directly? About 100 times. And? He changes the subject. Shona's frustration was growing by the minute. Whatever David was hiding was starting to affect every part of their relationship. Meanwhile, David found himself receiving another threatening message on his phone. His face drained of color. The message was short. You can't hide forever. His hands trembled. This wasn't the first warning. Over recent weeks, anonymous texts had become increasingly sinister. At first, he'd convinced himself they were harmless. But now it was impossible to ignore the threat. Someone was targeting him. And whoever it was knew enough to make him genuinely afraid. That evening, David secretly met with a mysterious figure in a deserted car park. The stranger stepped from the shadows. You've got what I asked for? The figure demanded. David swallowed nervously. I need more time. You're running out of it. You don't understand. Oh, I understand perfectly. The stranger moved closer. If you don't do what you're told, your family pays the price. David froze. Family. That was the one word capable of breaking him. The figure disappeared into the darkness, leaving David shaken and terrified. Back on the street, Shona noticed his increasingly erratic behavior. He was distracted, anxious, and constantly checking his phone. One evening she finally snapped. Tell me what's going on. David looked stunned. I don't know what you're talking about. Stop lying. The room fell silent. "I'm your wife," Shona continued. "Whatever this is, we face it together." David wanted to tell her everything. He wanted to explain the threats, the fear, the impossible situation he'd found himself trapped in. But he couldn't. The risks were too great. Instead, he said the worst possible thing. Stay out of it. The hurt on Shona's face was immediate. "So that's it?" "Shona." "No. If you don't trust me, what's the point?" She grabbed her coat and stormed out. David stood helplessly as the door slammed shut. The damage had been done. Days passed with tension hanging heavily over the household. Even the Platts noticed. Gail sensed trouble. Audrey worried constantly. Sarah found herself caught in the middle. But nobody knew the full truth. David's secret continued to grow darker. Then came the moment that changed everything. Late one night, Shona returned home unexpectedly and found David searching frantically through a drawer. "What are you doing?" David jumped. "Nothing. Why are you acting like that?" Before he could answer, his phone buzzed. Another message appeared. This time Shona saw it. Her eyes widened. "Who sent that?" David snatched the phone away. "It's nothing." "Nothing?" She stared at him in disbelief. "Someone's threatening you." The room was filled with tension. For the first time, David realized he could no longer keep the truth hidden. Slowly, he began explaining everything. The threats. The demands. The fear that had consumed him. Shona listened in stunned silence. When he finished, tears filled her eyes. "You should have told me. I was trying to protect you." "Protect me?" she said sadly. "You nearly destroyed us instead." David lowered his head. She wasn't wrong. The following days brought little relief. The danger remained. Whoever was behind the threats wasn't finished. In fact, things were about to become even more dangerous. A brick smashed through the Platts' window in the middle of the night. The family rushed downstairs in panic. Attached to the brick was a note. One chilling sentence. "This is your final warning." Shona looked at David. David looked back at her. Both knew the situation had spiraled beyond their control. As fear spread through the household, the couple faced an impossible choice. Fight back, or risk losing everything. For David and Shona, the coming weeks would test their marriage, their loyalty, and their strength like never before. The bond that had survived tragedy, heartbreak, and countless battles now faced its greatest challenge yet. And as dark clouds gathered over Coronation Street, one thing became painfully clear. The nightmare was only just beginning. With danger lurking around every corner and enemies closing in, David and Shona would soon find themselves at the center of one of the most gripping and emotional storylines the street had seen in years. The question wasn't whether they could survive it. The question was what would be left of them when it was over. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Coronation Street News 24.